French Connection 2 is a 1975 crime-drama film starring Gene Hackman and directed by John Frankenheimer. It is a fictional sequel to the initially true story of the 1971 Academy Award-winning picture The French Connection. The film expands on the central character of Det. Jimmy Popeye Doyle, who travels to Marseille, France, where he is attempting to track down French drug dealer Alain Charnier, who got away at the end of the first film. Hackman and Fernando Rey are the only returning cast members. Plot: picking up 2 or 3 years after where the original left off, narcotics officer Jimmy Popeye Doyle is still searching for elusive drug kingpin Alain Charnier. Orders from his superiors send Doyle to Marseille, France, to track down the criminal mastermind and bust his drug ring. Once in France, Doyle is met by Inspector Henry Barthélemy, who resents his rude and crude crime-fighting demeanor. Doyle then begins to find himself as a fish out of water in France, where he is matched with a language he cannot understand. Doyle is shown round the police station, where he finds his desk is situated directly outside the toilets. He tells Barthélemy that he is not satisfied with this positioning and hopes it is not a joke at his expense. Barthélemy informs Doyle that he has read his personnel file and is aware of his reputation, and especially hopes he has not brought a gun with him, as it is strictly forbidden in France for visiting police officers from other countries to carry firearms. Doyle continues to struggle with the language and tries to order drinks in a bar. He eventually makes himself understood, befriending a bartender while buying him drinks, and they eventually stumble out of the bar together at closing time. Determined to find Charnier on his own, Popeye escapes from his French escorts. While Doyle watches a beach volleyball match, Charnier sees him from a restaurant below. Charnier sends his henchmen to follow Doyle through the town, where they capture him and take him to a hotel for interrogation. For several weeks, Doyle is injected with heroin in effort to force him into capitulation. Scenes of his growing addiction follow, including one in which an elderly lady visits him in his befuddled state. She talks to him, declaring herself to be English, and saying that her son is just like him, while stroking his arm. Initially she seems compassionate to his plight, but a change in the camera angle reveals her track marks and that she is slowly removing his watch. Barthélemy has sent police to search for Doyle, and as the raids close in on where Doyle is detained, he is dumped barely alive but addicted in front of police headquarters. Scenes of resuscitation and drug withdrawal follow. In his effort to save both Doyle's life and his reputation, Barthélemy immediately quarantines Doyle in the police cells and begins his cold turkey withdrawal from the heroin, supervising his recovery, and at his side with both emotional support and taunts questioning his toughness. Barthélemy ensures Doyle completes the cycle of physical withdrawal. When he is well enough to be on his feet, Doyle starts back on the road to regaining his physical fitness. He searches Marseille and, finding the hideout, drug warehouse he was brought to, he sets it on fire. He breaks into a room at the hotel and finds Charnier's henchman, whom he interrogates as to the whereabouts of Charnier. Doyle is joined by Barthélemy and other inspectors who engage Charnier's henchmen in a gun battle in a dry dock, which results in water from multiple spillways pouring out. The henchmen and inspectors are killed, but Doyle rescues Barthélemy. The following raid on Charnier and his henchmen is successful, but Charnier escapes. Doyle, in a foot chase of Charnier, who is sailing out of the harbor on his yacht, takes his gun out, calls Charnier's name, and finally shoots him dead. Cast: Gene Hackman as Det. Jimmy Popeye Doyle, Fernando Rey as Alain Charnier, Bernard Fresson as Henry Barthélemy, Philippe Léacout-Otard as Jacques, Jean-Pierre Castaldi as Raoul Diane, Charles Millet as Militer, Ed Lauter as General Brian, Kathleen Nesbitt as the Old Lady. Production John Frankenheimer had lived in France for a number of years when he agreed to make the film. I like the script, I like the characters, I like the Hackman character in France and not speaking a word of French. It's a very difficult film because we want in no way to rip off the first one, which is one of the best films I've ever seen. I want to make a movie that stands on its own as a movie. Frankenheimer also admitted he made the film in part because of the financial failure of The Impossible Object. I want to make pictures that one sees, he said. There's a great public out there and you have to reach them, otherwise you're not in the movie business. Score. The music was composed and conducted by Don Ellis, who returned from the original film. A soundtrack CD was released by the Film Score Monthly in 2005 and paired with the music from the first film. Reception. The film has received generally positive reviews. Review aggregate Rotten Tomatoes reports that 76% of critics have given the film a positive review based on 21 reviews with an average score of 6.6/10. Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times gave the film 2.5 out of 4 stars and said that, if Frankenheimer and his screenplay don't do justice to the character, they at least do justice to the genre. And this is better than most of the many cop movies that followed The French Connection into release. The film earned North American rentals of $5.60 million, surpassing its $4.3 million budget. Empire considered French Connection 2 to be the 16th greatest film sequel in 2009.